The Supreme Court heard arguments this past week in a case that could weaken the Voting Rights Act. The issue surrounds a second majority black district that was added to the congressional map in Louisiana following the 2020 census. The state created that district in response to a lower court ruling, which said the state likely violated the 1965 civil rights law. While this new dispute is focused on Louisiana's congressional map, the outcome will have nationwide implications. So here with more on what's at stake, our legal expert, attorney Matt Mangino. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah.
Well, I want to start off with a clear understanding of the Voting Rights Act and its significance. Can you tell us why was it put in place back in the 60s and what is it designed to protect?
So the Voting Rights Act, specifically Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, says that there can be no racial discrimination in voting. And so what it did was it preserved the opportunity for minority communities to have some say in the legislative process by ensuring that districts were not created to eliminate any majority racial voters.
So what kind of precedent could the Supreme Court set depending on how they rule on this case?
Well, this case could be a monumental case in terms of voting in this country, particularly in the South, and really the outcome of House races, for the next decade, not only having an impact on the president right now, because these midterms that are coming up in 2026 are extremely important with regard to control of the House, even control of the Senate, and also being able to in some way limit the scope of what the president believes his authority is at this point.
So if the Voting Rights Act gets struck down, what would this open the door to when it comes to states who are drawing up new congressional maps and potential gerrymandering?
Yeah, so some experts have suggested that there could be 19 new congressional districts which would eliminate this racial balance that currently exists and quite possibly flip those districts from Democratic seats to Republican seats. That would confirm the Republicans' hold on the House of Representatives, which again, as I said earlier, would be very significant with regard to the political landscape in 2026 and beyond.
So we have seen redistricting battles play out across the country, including here in Ohio. If the Voting Rights Act is weakened, would groups still have the ability to challenge new maps in court?
Well, you could continue to challenge those new maps in state court and in federal court. It just matters, how those decisions are made by the state courts, and ultimately, could they lead to the United States Supreme Court. I mean, it wasn't long ago that the Supreme Court of the United States made a decision on a gerrymandering case. And this case particularly is a bit unusual because there were arguments on this Louisiana case already before the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court scheduled a second argument and asked the parties to determine whether or not the Voting Rights Act violates the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. That's the question that's before the court right now.
And Matt, before I let you go here, I want to switch gears just a second and get your opinion on this. We also saw President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, get indicted for mishandling classified information. How serious does this case look against Bolton compared to the other recent indictments we've seen in the past few weeks?
But it appears that there might be a little more substance to this case against John Bolton because this case was brought by a different office, a U.S. Attorney's Office, by more seasoned prosecutors, more precise charges. The cases against James and Comey really were blatantly political. These cases might have a little more substance. But the question I think for John Bolton is, would this charge have been filed against him if Donald Trump was not president? And that's going to be the fundamental question